Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. Here's your flash briefing for the week of June 3rd. City Council meet for regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers in City Hall. If you can't watch, quickly catch up on City Council meetings by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. Downtown Days is this weekend, June 7th through the 9th. Kick off summer with this free event. Enjoy live entertainment, vendor booths, fair food, and so much more. Visit downtownls.org for more information. Looking for a career change? The city is hiring. The city offers rewarding career opportunities, a positive environment, and fantastic benefits. View these opportunities at lspeople.net. Tour de Lakes bike ride is Saturday, June 22nd, beginning at 7 a.m. at Longview Community Center. Choose from 4 different routes around 5 different lakes in Lee Summit. There will be a free catered lunch after for all bike ride participants. Find more information at lsparks.net. And stay connected with the city by following us on our social media platforms. Be the first to know about city updates and related news. Find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.
Welcome to the Lee Summit Sign Department. We are going to walk you through our process from start to finish. We make signs as needed here. It's not like we just go out into the field and place a speed limit sign here, no parking here. Our traffic engineers, they go through and they'll do field studies. They'll send us down an engineering work order for us to go out, place new signs or remove signs as needed. Coming from the material, our blanks come in and they're just aluminum blanks. We can put our white, our red, our fluorescent yellow, green, whatever. And basically what it looks like is just that there. Throw it up into the roller. And once we got it covered, take it to our work table here, and Tim will cut the corners, cut all the access off to where it's lined up right. As far as the plotter and the software that we use, there's a street name sign there, and he's gonna go ahead and print that out on the plotter so you can see the plotter and how it operates and runs. There's standards for the height, even just on letters on the sign blank. Basically what we have on the computer there is it's pretty much set up to those. And it goes through, it's got a very small but sharp needle that goes through and cuts everything out, letter by letter. Once that's done cutting, our next stage would be bringing it over here. Currently picking out the sign letters right now. We call it weeding or picking or however you want to call it. Next, putting it on the transfer tape. Then after it's taped, we bring it over to the roller. That's where we apply it to the actual sign blank. And we'll roll it through one time just to get the air bubbles out. And the last stage is basically just taking the transfer tape off the front of it. And there's a finished product of the street name sign. We'll take you out to the field and show you our process that we go through. We're gonna go out and follow our sign guys and get something installed for you. This is where we check our underground utilities. Tim, you got AT&T?
AT&T's back here.
Evergy, Google, so we should be good to go. We normally put all of our stuff together out in the field. Then once the base is installed, we'll go ahead and put the post in there. We've come up to perfect. And that's how we do it. Simple, quick.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either a bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words: mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982 is en route.
Officers en route, 914, Armstrong.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
I'm like, hey, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network, who's close to you. If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as the co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know you care and the officers care.
Please, how can we help you?
My husband has...
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here, we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. Say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you, well, then we found a support person, and they responded immediately, and we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
It's extremely rewarding overall. Just the fact of working with other council people and other volunteer commission members that are so involved and care so much about making this community better. It sort of kind of lifts your own spirits by being involved in that kind of environment with other people like that. For many years, I was a typical resident, raising a family, going to work, in many cases leaving the city for employment, and went through a leadership class through the chamber. Learned a lot about our city and learned about all the great amenities and resources we have, and was asked if I was interested in volunteering on a commission. I said yes, and kind of the rest is history. I've just completed my third year on city council, and so looking forward to finishing strong with this first term and look forward to continuing to serve this community. My thing is that there's so many talented people in this community that believe in so many different initiatives. And for me, one of the big reasons why I decided to run was that as a residential taxpayer, I felt that we can always increase the business tax base of our community. And that's kind of been a big part of my involvement on City Council, is to encourage and promote and make it easier for development to occur, commercial development to occur in our community, to increase that tax base and diversify that tax base. And so I think we've made significant strides the last few years. We've had a collective great group of council members and mayor where we've really truly accomplished a lot of things that there were somewhat kind of stumbling blocks for previous councils. Working new contracts with our union personnel, firefighters and police was a big accomplishment for us. The fact that we were able to push along some initiatives like the downtown renovation for a market, a farmer's market. It's been a great experience to be part of those meetings, to help nudge it, and to the point where we have a developer involved is just a great feeling to have been part of that. And others, I mean, I think our park system, we've continued to support our park system to add a new community center, for example, that we negotiated with the metropolitan community colleges. So I'm proud of all those things and just being able to help make a difference in many aspects. I love definitely spending time with my family. We have 3 daughters and they're all fairly active, in some in sports and other extracurricular activities. But for me, I love being outdoors. I love the trails, I love riding my bike, and I love playing golf. And we have awesome amenities and options within our community to have that kind of a lifestyle. This June will be 25 years that my wife and I have lived in Lee Summit and have raised 3 daughters in this community. I know this city has incredible, talented residents that come from all different walks of life, very diverse group of families in our community that it's so rewarding to be involved on a government level or some kind of civic commission or committee that in many cases you get out of it more than you put in. And I truly live by that and I believe that.
Welcome, everyone. Would you please rise for the invocation and stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? Oh, my goodness. My invocation person isn't here, so I'll be doing that. What's that? Faith. Yeah. Faith, you want to do it for us? What? Would you do the prayer? A prayer? Oh. On the spot? Yeah. You don't mind? Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here tonight and giving us the opportunity to do what's best for our constituents. Help us to make wise decisions and let us to enjoy the night.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Hodges, for pinch hitting for us there. And then I'm going to call to order the City of Lee Summit regular session number 5. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Hodges.
Here.
Councilmember DeMauro. Councilmember Pryor.
Here.
Councilmember Shields.
Here.
Councilmember Rader.
Here.
Councilmember Lovell.
Here.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Here.
Mayor Baird.
Here. All right. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I have a motion to adopt the agenda by Councilmember Shields, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 8-0. Thank you, everyone. Approval of the consent agenda is next. I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Pryor. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. That's all right. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you. And then we go to Council Roundtable. This is items of general interest, things going on in your community, things of that nature. Councilmember Shields, please start us off.
Downtown Days is this weekend, so definitely encourage everybody to get out and support our downtown. It's gonna be a lot of great vendors, carnival, food, all the stuff we love. So hope everybody comes out.
Thank you. Councilmember Lovell.
Thank you, Mayor. Tomorrow morning, I get the chance to sit on a panel for the Association of Builders and Contractors in Kansas City, talking about all great things development in our city. And thanks to staff, Mr. Johnson, for putting together some great slides and data points for me. So looking forward to that. If anybody wants to join, 7:30 tomorrow morning, Grand Street Cafe.
Wow. Thank you. And that's nice. Thanks for representing. I might be a little preoccupied the next few weeks because I do am one of those weird people that like NBA basketball, and my favorite sports team of all time is the Boston Celtics, and we're really, really good this year. I mean, really good. And they're all good people. Every person on the team is a good team player, so I'm pretty excited, and they're in the finals, so. And they're not playing on council nights. That's important because they play every other night. Well, then I will take us to proclamations. Can I have the Moms Demand Action group that's with us come on down front with me? Hi, how are you all? I will read it first and then we'll go around if you don't mind. All right, very good. Whereas every day, more than 120 Americans are killed by gun violence alongside more than 200 who are shot, wounded, with an average of more than 87,000 gun homicides every year. Whereas Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries. Whereas Missouri has 1,378 gun deaths every year, with a rate of 22.7 deaths per 100,000 people, a crisis that costs the state $17.6 billion each year, of which $455 million is paid by taxpayers. Missouri has the 7th highest rate of gun deaths in the U.S. Whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever as we see an increase in firearm homicides and non-fatal shootings across the country, increased calls to domestic violence hotlines, and an increase in city gun violence. Whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories. Whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the hands of people who should not have access to them and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our families and communities safe. By virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Lee Summit, I do hereby proclaim June 7th, 2024 as National Gun Violence Awareness Week. Can I get a round of applause? Thank you. All right. Would you say a few words and tell us who you are?
I'm Gina Meyer, and I want to thank Lee Summit for making this proclamation and making everybody in our community safer. It is a nonpartisan issue, and we appreciate everybody working together for the safety of the entire community.
Excellent. Thank you. Your name?
Diana Gillespie.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Godfroy, and I'm actually the local group leader for our Moms Demand Action KC Metro Area Group.
Marcy Gully, Lee Summit constituent.
Excellent. Would you mind taking a photo? All right, hold on. I have to get your actual proclamation. Oh, do you need somebody to take a photo?
Thank you.
Hold on. There we go. Well, thank you all for coming. Oh, one more. Thank you. You can tell he's been critiqued by his kids, and he knows how to take phone pictures now. So, thank you all again. All right. Next on the agenda, we get to some business. We have public hearings. I am going to first close the regular session and open the public hearing in the matter of agenda item 5A, which is a preliminary development plan, 1,900 square foot ADU in the backyard of 512 Northeast Promised View Drive. Thomas Freeman is the applicant. Would all those wishing to speak to this matter please rise and be sworn in by the city clerk? If you plan on speaking, please rise and be sworn in by the city clerk. All right, thank you.
Thomas Freeman, 7555 160th Street, Stillwell, Kansas, and I'm deferring the presentation to city staff.
Okay.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members. Shannon McGuire, Planning Manager. Please enter in the record Exhibit A, list of exhibits 1 through 17.
Okay, please enter into the record Exhibit A, 1 through 17.
All right, the applicant is before us today to seek approval of an PDP to allow for an accessory dwelling unit behind their home that is currently under construction. As you can see here from the aerial photo, the property is surrounded by residential homes. The homes to the kind of east, south, west are all zoned R1, and then to the north there is zoned Ag. Sorry, I skipped a slide there. The Ignite Comprehensive Plan does identify the site as its future recommended land use as residential 1. One of the established goals of the comprehensive plan is to promote a diversified housing stock and choices and increase investment in Lee Summit community. If approved, the PDP will meet these goals and the objectives as outlined in the comprehensive plan, and it also aid in creating a strong, high-quality neighborhood in our community. So right now, the UDO does have established guidelines with regards to the size maximum of ADUs, or accessory dwelling units. They are seeking a modification to one of those requirements. Right now, we do limit the size to 1,000 square feet or 50% of the principal structure, whichever is the less. Currently, they're asking to increase that to a total square footage of 1,971 square feet, which obviously exceeds that UDO maximum. They are in compliance with all other requirements with regards to the density, the setback, parking requirements, impervious height, architectural compatibility, bedroom count. The principal structure of this on this particular lot is slightly a little over 12,000 square feet, so it is well below that 50% max. It's just a very large house in a large house neighborhood, so the proposed ADU is sorry, got maxed up there, is compatible with the size of the overall structure. So some of the elevations here, as you can see the front, and the rear, and the sides. Just kind of a picture of the existing structure that is under construction currently, as well as the architectural elevation that was provided during the building permit. So with that, they are, again, seeking modification. There are 3 conditions of approval as outlined here and in the staff letter. And with that, I can answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. The applicant deferred to staff on the presentation, so council members, are there any questions for the applicant or staff? Yes, Councilmember Rader.
Thank you, Mayor. I noticed on the application that there was a neighborhood meeting.
Correct.
And did any of the neighbors express concern over the additional impervious surface to cause any watershed to any of the adjacent properties? I'm really familiar with this area over here, but yeah.
So yeah, there was about 11 people that participated in that neighborhood meeting. Primarily, the concerns did center around stormwater and where that was going to go, and so that has all been designed out and reviewed through the engineering inspection or the engineering review process. So I think I haven't heard any additional concerns. So.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's all I had. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Other questions? Okay, is there anybody here tonight that'd like to speak in favor or in opposition to the application? Please come forward. All right, any additional questions from council? Does the applicant care to make any comment? Any further comment? Does the applicant care to make any further comment? All right. Hearing no further testimony, I'm closing the public hearing and reopening the regular session. Is there any council discussion on this application? Okay, seeing none. Oh, yes, Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you. It's more of a comment. If you show that aerial earlier, I'm sorry, the other one. Yeah, that one. I've seen your house go up, whoever's home it is. I live in the cul-de-sac to the right there. Just no, we have a couple, but yeah. So it looks like you're building whoever it is. It's a beautiful home, and I just hope it continues to keep that area as nice as it is. And thank you for being respectful with your setbacks towards the neighbors there to the east. So, but I think you have some really good neighbors in that area. So, welcome. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Seeing no further comments or discussion, Councilmember Shields, would you please read Bill number 24-095?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for second reading of Bill number 24-095, an ordinance approving a preliminary development plan for an accessory dwelling unit on land located at 512 Northeast Promise View Drive, all in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 33 of the Unified Development Ordinance of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 24-095 by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It does get approved to go to second reading unanimously, so very good. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close the regular session again, open a public hearing in the matter of Agenda Item 5B. This is a rezoning from RP2 to Ag and RLL, 2800 Southeast Ranson Road and 1300 Southeast Hook Lane is the address. And Jaclyn Maloney is the applicant. Would all those wishing to speak to this matter please rise and be sworn in by the city clerk?
Hi, Jackie Maloney, 2800 Southeast Ranson Road, Lee Summit, Missouri, 64082. I do not have a separate presentation and will defer to staff. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you.
Good evening, Hector Soto, Senior Planner. I'd like to enter into the record Exhibit A, list of Exhibits 1 through 18.
Okay, please enter into the record Exhibit A 1 through, how many? 15?
18.
18,
Sorry.
1 through 18.
Need to enunciate better. The applicant has submitted an application that covers about 5 1/3 acres. That's outlined here in the image on the left in red. It was originally, at the beginning of this process, it was made up of 2 parcels, which have since now been platted. So this little line that divides these 2 parcels no longer exists. So the plat has been recorded to merge the 2 properties. As you can see here, to provide a comparison to the surrounding properties, the surrounding area is primarily agricultural in nature. You have James A. Reed outside city limits to the east, and to the south of this is Hook Lane, which serves as one of the southern boundaries of the corporate limits of Lee Summit. The comp plan here shows that the majority of the area is shown to be a residential 1 in our Ignite Comprehensive Plan, which would be low-density residential, which would encompass agricultural-type development, single-family, through your typical R1 standard single-family subdivisions. So the area here that you see in we'll call it pamplemousse color, is about 11 acres, and it was originally rezoned to RP2 back in 1971, so about 53 years ago. And at that time, the desire for the property owner at that time was to divide the property into 2 parcels and construct a duplex on one of those lots. That never occurred, but this zoning still remains in place. So fast forward about 13 years, the area was platted as more standard, well, not standard, good size, large acreage, single-family lots, which is how some of the homes here, the homes that you see here in that area emerged. At that time, the keeping of horses on large acreage was allowed, including in RP2 or R2 zoning, as it was known at that time. And with the adoption of the UDO in 2001, that was no longer allowed in anything except for agricultural or large acreage, single-family residential. But since the use at that time was already existing, it was considered a lawful non-conforming use. Now some time passed, and the keeping of horses on this property ceased to exist. So after 6 months, lawful non-conforming uses, if that use is not continued, it becomes extinguished. So now the new property owner with this application would like to rezone the property to a zoning district that would allow her to reestablish the keeping of horses on the property. And through the process, we've identified the RLL zoning district as the most appropriate. The 2 furthest right columns on the image here, the furthest one is existing conditions, and here you can see a side-by-side comparison of the RLL condition standards. You can see that in that zoning district, a minimum half-acre size is required. We're dealing with 5 1/3, so that minimum lot size is met. The minimum front setback is met. There's almost 300 feet of separation from the front property line to the residence. Only 30 is required. And on the side setbacks, we're looking at 30 and almost 50 feet, whereas 10 feet is the minimum setback. Along the rear, also that setback is met by 14 feet. There's 44 to the existing residence, although that's now changed with the merging of the two lots. So there's, well, multiples of that where 30 feet is required. So the RLL zoning district was one that was selected because the standards, the existing conditions of the residence met all of these minimum requirements, whereas it did not meet all the requirements for the ag zoning, which requires a minimum 10 acres, or the RDR zoning, which has setbacks that are at least 50 feet. And again, we're dealing with some 30s, some 40s, and a little bit more than that. So the RLL zoning district was identified as the most appropriate zoning district to which to rezone the property, and is one of the 3 or 4 qualifying zoning districts to allow the keeping of horses. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the rezoning from Ag and RP2 to RLL as requested by the applicant. And I will yield to any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you. Questions for applicant or staff? Is this on city sewer?
It is on septic system.
So, so we're still in compliance with the 1 acre?
Correct. The Jackson County requires a minimum 3 acre minimum, has the minimum 3 acre requirement. So she's actually going through or has gone through the process of getting some permitting for some repair work on it. But yes, yeah, there's no sewer anywhere in
Go
this
ahead.
area.
Yes, Ms. Maloney, please.
I just had the septic system completely reconstructed, new lateral field, permitted, and it was inspected and put online today.
Great.
Thank God.
Perfect. That's the big concern when you're doing these.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to the application? Please come forward. Okay. Any additional questions from council? Ms. Maloney, do you care to make any further comment? Thank you. Hearing no further testimony, I'm closing the public hearing and reopening the regular session. Is there any council discussion on this application? All right, seeing none, Councilmember Rader, would you please read bill number 24-096?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to advance to second reading Bill number 24-096, an ordinance approving rezoning from District Agricultural and RP2 Plan 2 Family Residential to District RLL Residential Large Lot on approximately 5.35 acres of land located at 2800 Southeast Ranson Road and 1300 Southeast Hook Lane, all in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 33, the Unified Development Ordinance of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-096 by Councilmember Rader, seconded by Councilmember Carlisle. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. And it's approved to go to second reading, 8-0. So, thank you. Okay, we're going to do another public hearing. I'm going to close the regular session and open the public hearing in the matter of Agenda Item 5C. This is a Unified Development Ordinance Amendment. Updates for temporary signage standards to Article 9 signs. City of Lee Summit is the applicant. Would all those wishing to speak to this matter please rise and be sworn in by the city clerk? Ms. Nassif?
Good evening. Good evening, Amy Nassif, Deputy Director of Development. I would like to enter into the record Exhibit List A, Exhibits 1 through 14.
Please enter into the record Exhibit A, 1 through 14.
Great. Thank you. This evening, we're here to talk about some updates to our Unified Development Ordinance, all pertaining to temporary signs. And tonight's updates are a result of our collaboration and work last fall with the CEDC. Our goals mainly consisted around clarifying our requirements to remove some inconsistencies, helping to understand the language much easier in our code, to address the lack of time limits for temporary signs, also to update sections to remove some unnecessary classifications and categories so that we are more content neutral, which is what's required now, and take a look at our regulations around the area and any updates that needed to be made. So first, just want to share with you, for our temporary signs, kind of this is how we look and how we compare with other cities and nearby jurisdictions. Right now, we allow 5 temporary signs on non-residential property. Only kind of problem is in some other sections of the code, it reads a little bit more like 6, sometimes 7, so it's a little bit unclear. And then also, we actually don't have time limits on all of our temporary signs, which makes our temporary signs permanent signs in a lot of situations. So that's something that we definitely wanted to address. And then this is just a summary of what our temporary signs look like on residential properties. Right now, again, there's no time limit. In general, it's 1. You get a couple more for real estate signs, but again, then there's other areas of the code where it's a little bit more unclear and reads like you get additional signs on top of that. And part of that confusion is also because of how we currently regulate our signs based on what the message is, which we need to get away from and start looking more on the number of signs and type of signs instead. And so temporary signs that we're talking about are stake signs. These are just some examples of things you may see around. You also have banners, and feather signs are also known as quill banners or quill signs too. So one of the first things we did was look at our definitions, and we wanted to update those just to make sure that it's easy to read and follow, but also get all of our definitions in line with what the type of sign is. Right now, a lot of our temporary signs, such as the banner, just says see temporary signs. So this is just an example of how we fixed that and cleaned that up so that the definition of the banner is in line with that area of the code, so it's just easier to find. Also, this is just something interesting we ran across. Our table right now, which demonstrates what our temporary signs are allowed to be, is actually in our permanent sign chapter of our code. So we have a lot of confusion for the general public and even sometimes internally with just being able to find that. So one thing we did also was just move the table besides updating it to another section of our UDO. The bulk of the actual updates come in this section here, 9.220. It looks like a lot of changes, but actually what we're doing, some of these items are actually in the table, so they're redundant here, and then also just made some categories to help clean and identify things better. Several things you'll notice that we did, besides getting away from what the message of the sign is, just basically made this easier and summarized. Also added that temporary signs are permitted for 90 days unless otherwise specified, and that temporary signs associated with an event should be removed 5 days after the event. And then also what's currently in our code as well right now, that if you do have a special event and signs associated with that, like a special event permit, those signs are reviewed with that permit in case something different or special is warranted. And then you still also are able to receive an additional sign on your on your property when your property is for sale or for rent. So those items haven't changed. We've just kind of cleaned them up to make them easier to understand. And this is just the cleanup version. We have both versions for you in the packet since there were so many red lines with the other one. And again, just cleaning up banners because most of this language is in our definitions chapter, so just didn't need to have it in two places. So in our section D, we created a brand new table, and this is where we get into how we were classifying our signs, and we wanted to remove some language that causes some issues and problems. And so basically we've streamlined this to be more in line with some recent court decisions and also with what best practices are. So instead of, as the current code has it, that signs, you first have to look in the code to what the site is zoned, what the land use is, what the type of sign is, what the sign says, what the message is. We needed to clean that up, and so we just have them categorized by the type of sign itself, whether it's a stake sign or a banner or ground mounted. And so these are the requirements for residential properties or residential lots. The top portion is for any residential lot except for a multifamily development, and this bottom one is for multifamily developments. The reason for that is while we cleaned up the language, the requirement of whether or not you needed a permit, and if there was a time limit currently established, we did not change that. So there was some different requirements already in place currently for the multifamily, such as requiring a sign permit, so that's why those are just separated out. And then for non-residential properties or anything commercial or industrial in nature, you're allowed, again, 4 signs, whether it's stake sign, banners, or feather or quill signs. Banners, for instance, as you can see, 40 square feet. That is the current size requirement now, so that did not change. And also have a 90-day time limit now on everything as well. And whether or not, again, you needed a sign permit, we did not change the process at all. It just codifies it all into this table, so it's easier to read and follow. Again, we did our research and drafting, met with CEDC, and then had our public hearing at Planning Commission in May, and then before you this evening. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, questions? Yes, Councilmember Rader.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, Amy, so how do you, I don't want to say the word police, but how do you make people accountable to, because most people aren't going to know the sign requirements, and they're not probably going to call the city. I'm talking about in, for instance, real estate signs. And you know, sometimes we have open house signs out, but there's no date on those open house signs sometimes. Or sometimes we have for sale signs that point to a house. So is there someone that's going to be driving around and time, saying, okay, this sign was up Sunday, May the 5th, and it's only can be up for 5 days. So I'm just asking that question because
Sure.
I'm sure it's going to be asked of me.
So real estate signs are allowed to be up now currently in our code when your property is for sale or for rent, and that still is the same now. That doesn't, so it's for the duration of the property being for sale or for lease.
Right,
It
right.
doesn't have to be removed 5 days later. We do it the same way we do it now. If someone calls or if we notice that it's been up for a very long time, we would reach out to that property owner and just ask, is this property still for lease or for sale? If they say no, then we let them know, can the sign be removed then at this time? Same way that we do now if there's signs up for lease or for sale on property.
So I'm talking about not the ones in the yard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the ones that are on the street. Same thing?
Same thing.
Yeah.
As we do right
So
now.
an open house sign could be up for 90 days?
An open house sign has to be removed 5 days after
5
the
days
event.
after.
Mhm.
But there's no date on it, so you wouldn't necessarily.
No, so if we do get a complaint or we do notice
So
it,
you
we
wait
keep a
for-
log of it, we
gotcha.
keep a record, and
So
then
you
we
wait
go
f-
back out.
You wait for complaints. Okay, that's
it-
kind of what I was trying to get how that is.
And we do get calls periodically, and provide information whenever folks do call. But the nice thing about this is it'll make it easier to read, but the amount of those for rent or for sale signs and when and how they can be up, that part hasn't changed, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm glad this ordinance is getting cleaned up. But just out of curiosity, the signs that people have near their house, the ones that say things like about their student going to like a specific private school, or I know a neighbor of mine has one that says like, my child goes to Notre Dame DC or proud parent of a Notre Dame DC volleyball player. Are those considered temporary signs even though they keep them up pretty much all the time? Or is that something they could potentially get in trouble for? Or how do you guys determine?
So there's exceptions to their sign ordinance and our sign code that lists a variety of types of signs or that are not required or they're exempt. And so it's things such as holidays, special occasions, events. So like those birthday signs or happy graduation, things like that, they are exempt from the sign requirements.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. It's a good thing because my wife leaves up her holiday lights way too long every year. It is. We're getting better, though.
And my birthday's Christmas Day, so it would be all kinds of confusion of how many signs I could have in my yard. Yeah, all of them at once.
Okay. Other questions? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or in opposition to the application? Please come forward. I'll have to swear you in. Swear in. Tricia. Thank you.
Teresa Vollenweider, 5201 Northeast Maybrook Road. Are any temporary signs metal signs? Like you put on a fence post?
I know that it's really tough for you, but you're going to have to ask all your questions, Ms. Vollenweider, because it's not a back and forth between citizens. But I'll let you do a couple, okay? So please answer the question, Ms. Nassif.
Temporary signs can be banners, they can be affixed to a fence, affixed to a wall, or they can be ground mounted.
Okay, because it said stake or banner, and that was it, right?
There's a definition for banner that's included in the UDO that includes ground mounted or affixed to a structure.
Okay, and then definition of residential?
There's a
We have-
definition of
yes,
residential
we have
in our
definitions.
UDO.
The acreage, 40 acres with nothing on it, is that residential?
It depends on its zoning. It could be ag is what it's probably, but it
Yeah,
could be,
it's
it
ag.
could be residential as well. It's possible.
Correct.
Because you don't have anything in there referring to anything non-residential, right?
There's a residential and a non-residential section in the updates.
Thank you. All right, next, let's see here. We got any further questions from council? All right, hearing no further testimony, I'm closing the public hearing and reopening the regular session. Is there any council discussion on this application? Okay, seeing no further questions or comments, Councilmember Pryor, would you please, is it Councilmember Pryor? Yes, would you please read bill number 24-097?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to advance to a second reading, Bill Number 24-097, an ordinance amending Chapter 33 Unified Development Ordinance, Article 9, signs of the Lee Summit Code of Ordinances for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-097 by Councilmember Pryor, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It passes 8-0, goes to second reading. Thank you, everyone. We're going to close the regular session again. We are going to open the public hearing in the matter of agenda item 5D, special use permit for equipment rental facility, 1100 Southeast Hamblen Road. Rick Venmo is the applicant for McAdams. Would all those speaking to this matter please rise and be sworn in by the city clerk?
Good evening, Rick Vino, John R. McAdams Company, 621 Hillsborough Street, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27603. We're here for special use permit to allow for my client to move a business into an existing facility. No proposed site modifications or improvements. It's going to be interior upfits only, which they will get any necessary building permits for, anything like that. There are 3 modifications included with this for the site, for the existing conditions. One being a gravel lot where it's supposed to be paved, but it does allow, if we can prove by geotech, it was built to a spec for pavement standards, and we did have that done. The 30-foot setback from adjacent property lines, the existing laydown yard is already in that area, and it's adjacent to another facility utilizing the 30-foot space from the property line in the same way. The last one is the fence is forward of the front facade of the building. Again, it's existing. The adjacent property also is similar. The property still fits within the context of the area. Doesn't really create a nuisance or hazards or anything like that. So we are proposing to keep the fence out front and add landscaping to it. I'm going to show, let's see here. I don't have the updated site plan in my presentation, but staff will have it in theirs, I believe. So here's the aerial image of the site, and the fence that's in discussion was up here. It's requested that we put a decorative metal fence up there, similar to the adjacent property over here. You can see it, which is pretty much a faux wrought iron fence. Problem with that for my client is it's easily manipulated or circumvented, and they have a lot of expensive things that are targets for theft with their equipment. So it's a high security concern for them to remove that fence and install a decorative fence. There's two large trees, which you can see there. They're approximately 14 to 16 inches in diameter. They're large growth, mature trees in good health. And the fence that's existing there is, it's in good shape. I have some additional pictures here that I was able to take today. I know some images don't show it as well. But here's one. As you can see, the barbed wire up top has been loosened in some way, shape, form. So my client would like to tighten that anyway. I believe it'll help them with security too, so it's in their interest. Another picture here. Try to take one looking down the fence here, so you can really see that it's not bent up. It's in good shape. It's not rusted. It's not oxidized. So again, we'd really like to keep that fence in its condition, and then add shrubbery or evergreen deciduous shrubs to the front of it to give it more of an appearance of the street that is as it is now. Parking lot vegetation, similar things, adjacent property and in front of the parking lot on this property. So really I want to keep it short, and I think I feel pretty straightforward, but I'd rather answer questions than keep going with most stuff that's been covered previously.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Shannon McGuire, Planning Manager. Please enter into the record Exhibit A, list of exhibits 1 through 18.
Please enter into the record Exhibit A, 1 through 18.
All right, so again, the subject property is a developed property with an existing 18,900 square foot building on it. It's a former site of a construction company. It was constructed around 1998. There is, again, a fenced gravel lot to the south and to the west of the particular property. As you can see from the aerial here, the property is surrounded by industrially zoned properties to the north, south, and west. And then across the street there is the PMIC zoned location of Home Depot. The use is consistent with the Ignite Comprehensive Plan's recommended land use designation of mixed use. This land use category does include uses such as industrial and warehouse type uses. Operating an equipment lease and rental facility from the subject site will bring renewed economic value and activity to this property, which all does fall in those identified goals and objectives as outlined in the comprehensive plan. So this is the existing site plan that was presented at Planning Commission. You can see the existing building here with the paved concrete parking lot around it, as well as the parking lot in front. And then the gravel is in this kind of hashed, pebbly area here. Just a quick photo of the existing building. As the applicant stated, they are requesting 3 modifications for 3 existing conditions. This first modification has to do with the existing setbacks along the property lines. This gravel lot was originally approved and constructed to serve as a material and equipment storage area for a general industrial use when the building was constructed in 1998. At that time, it was not subject to a setback and was didn't meet all requirements at the time it was constructed. Since that time, the UDO has established a 30-foot setback for uses such as the heavy equipment and large vehicle display areas and rental as a performance standard to that special use permit that they are seeking. As this is an existing condition with that 0-foot setback from the west and south, and it has historically been used this way, staff does feel the modification request is reasonable. Similar to the previous modification request, there is the existing fence that is kind of forward, as kind of outlined here in red. You can see down here that existing fence does come forward of the building. So again, this is an existing condition. They're just asking to continue that existing use. And so we do feel that is reasonable as well. And then in the red shaded area here is kind of the limits of that existing gravel laydown yard. The UDO does allow for a gravel storage lot instead of hard service in industrial areas in the PI zoning district, provided that the surface is engineered to support the weight of the vehicles. So for just general PI uses, a gravel laydown yard would be an allowed use. However, since they are proposing to do the rental, one of the performance standards for a rental facility is a paved parking area for that equipment storage. So they are requesting that that you guys grant that modification. So the use of a gravel storage area is similar to other heavy equipment rental facilities we do have in the community and has been previously supported by staff and approved by council. These include the Herc rentals, Bledsoe rentals, and Sunbelt rentals. They all currently use an existing gravel laydown yard for their storage. So again, staff does support this modification. We do feel it is reasonable. So during the question and answer period of the Planning Commission public hearing, some of the commissioners did raise concerns with regards to the condition of the existing fence, as well as the need for maybe some additional screening as well. So the amount of so you can see there's a couple trees there, so adding a lot of screening there could be a little bit problematic, getting some vegetation to grow under the thick canopies of those trees. So the applicant has also raised concerns, those security concerns with switching out that fencing type to more decorated type of fencing. So it doesn't quite meet their security levels that they feel is necessary. Staff also has concerns with regards to the different materials and how introducing a new fence type would interact with the existing fence type and whether or not it'd be secure. So the applicant has asked for that fencing requirement to be removed. So staff, like I said, does have those additional concerns with introducing the December fencing as well. So to address the Planning Commission's concerns, the applicant has proposed to add additional shrubbery and vegetation to provide some screening along that fence. They also, like they said, are proposing to tighten up and reset the barbed wire, clean up any or remove any kind of weeds or debris in that area, and just generally make the area more presentable. So this is the updated site plan that they have provided. As you can see blown up here, they are providing additional screening along that fence in the form of vegetation. And so in working with the applicant to address the Planning Commission's concerns, staff does feel that the applicant's request is reasonable and does meet the intent of the Planning Commission's screening requirements. So with that, there are 6 conditions of approval as outlined here. Number 5 and number 6 were added at the Planning Commission, by the Planning Commission. So the applicant has requested the removal of number 6. So with that concludes my presentation. I can yield for any questions you may have.
Could you leave it on that? Because that's not in our packet. Okay. So the 6th one is the fencing adjacent to Hamblin shall be replaced to match to the extent possible the existing fencing located adjacent to Southeast Hamblin. Can you just show us that? What's the request?
So
What's Planning Commission wanting?
They're wanting this portion of the fence to be replaced with more of that decorative anodized aluminum wrought iron look type fence.
Okay, and
So
the
I
other
can-
one,
We
the
do
applicant
have-
was okay with, can you read that one again?
That was the
Or tell us what it is? Additional landscape. in front of
additional
it.
landscaping which they have provided.
So in front of that fence, they're gonna put additional landscape,
Correct.
but the planning commission wanted them to also replace that fence.
Correct.
Okay. Did everybody get that? All right, questions for the staff or applicant? Yes, Councilmember Lovell.
Mayor, so planning has requested that. You're here before us, not recommending that, right? So not the fencing, right? Because
Staff
of
would
the
have
security
concerns with replacing that fencing with
So
the-
in lieu of that, the applicant has stated they will tighten it up, the barbed wire, or is that?
Correct.
That's in this special use permit, like what we're,
Correct.
and then I saw some landscaping vegetation, like a certain number of, like, how will that meet approval? Like how many do they have to put? What is up to our standard? Like how will we view that they've met the requirement to improve that site right there? Because you've got dumpsters, you've got you do have a dilapidated front-facing fence. I understand the security concerns, but I also think this is a great opportunity for us to like take something and, lift it up a little bit.
So they are proposing 6 additional cypress trees as well as 12 additional gem box inkberry shrubs. And at maturity, those will provide an adequate level of screening to screen the fence to help increase the visual appeal of that area.
And then when that's completed, do they reach out to you and say, hey, we've completed this, you go out, approve it, and it meets it? Or is it, how do you make sure they've met that requirement to, and how do we determine that it's, this is the intent of what we're approving?
Okay, so that's a condition that will be on the conditional of approval. So we will monitor that and ensure that it is installed with regards to.
And as far as the remaining site, like the parking lot there in the front or anything like that, like that's all up to our development standards code, whatever, like that doesn't need to be repaved in the front and there's no dilapidated concrete or anything like that, like looks in compliance with.
Yeah, we're good to go
Okay.
on that.
All right. I mean, the only other thing I was going to think of is like, I mean, obviously wrought iron would look a lot better, right? So anytime we can have an opportunity to replace chain link fence with barbed wire, I think it's a good opportunity for the city to do that. Are there other alternatives? Like I've seen chain link fence with like a rubber black coating, right? So I mean, are there other options that we have available besides keeping it chain link, not going to wrought iron?
Possibly.
Okay. I'm not saying that necessarily has to be here, but these are just things that I would think through as I'm going through this, right? So like, hey, this is a recommendation from Planning Commission. We would like it to be barbed wire, or like, and again, maybe this is something we'll address in CEDC, but like barbed wire, certainly there are better ways to keep people out than barbed wire in today's day and age. So maybe, I don't know, tightening it up, the landscaping, I want to see it, I guess I would want to see it meet those standards, and the original intent is to kind of block that view. So if we're good with that and staff feels good with that, I assume you believe these things will meet those standards. And
Yeah, I do believe that once the vegetation reaches maturity, it will obscure the view of that fence, so you won't even see the fence.
Okay.
Placing the wrought iron type fence there would be obscured by that vegetation as well.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Other questions for staff or applicant? Could you, I think, I'm trying to look at a good view. I mean, from the street view, I can see what it looks like a lot easier than the presentations. Just following up on what Councilmember Lovell's talking about, like if you're going to put in that many trees, you're going to cover up that fence quite a bit. Yeah, can you go to that? That's what I'm talking about. This is where you're talking about adding how many trees and such?
6 trees, 6 cypress.
What? Like evergreen?
Yeah, that would be a deciduous.
Yeah, so it'd stay
evergreen, sorry.
green all year and the leaves.
Yeah. Okay.
Do they? Okay, so I just want to make sure, as council has discussion, that this is the location where those last 2 additions were for the planning commission, correct, Mr. McGuire?
Correct.
And they're going to put trees there, and then the other requirement is that they would replace that fence with what?
The requirement was to replace the fence with the aluminum anodized fencing that's to the south there.
With aluminum fence?
Yeah. That's kind of got that wrought iron look. It's more of a decorative.
Yeah. Yeah. Is not as secure as what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Councilmember Pryor?
Thank you, Mayor. So kind of what Councilmember Lovell was saying, but is there another type of fencing that would look better that would also be equally as secure as this? I mean, because this doesn't look great, but I want it to be secure.
Possibly, like Councilmember Lovell suggested, there are some options with like a coated chain link fence that would provide a little elevated aesthetic to a chain link fence. Off the top of my head, a vinyl type fence would not be very secure. The aluminum fences are pretty thin. Typically, you see those more in a residential setting than in a more of a secure setting. So we can definitely evaluate it further.
I'm good with whatever everyone decides. I was just wondering, even for the future, but.
Okay.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, yes, Councilmember Shields?
Can you talk just a little bit about what the surrounding area is? Like, is this fencing kind of does it bring down the, because it's like right across the street from Home Depot, right? And what else is around there? It seems kind of industrial.
I would say that it is consistent with everything that's out there. The fencing would be consistent with the existing fencing that surrounds the site, as well as the fencing surrounding the neighboring site, except for maybe along the frontage.
And then when you do these reviews, do you bring like our public safety experts in the room into this discussion at all about what's going to be the most secure, or is it really just between like the development staff and the applicant? Like, did you ask like the police what would be the most secure for this area?
We do hold pre-apps that the police department are invited to. During the SGP review, they typically don't make comment on SGP applications. So in this particular one, I don't believe that they made comment on the security level.
Do our public safety personnel want to weigh in at all? Do you have any opinion on what's going to generate the least calls for you?
Mayor and members of council, Travis Forbes, the chief of police. In the development process, we typically don't involve ourselves in making recommendations for security matters for private businesses. We do, after the fact, frequently visit businesses at their request and do what we call a security audit to make recommendations. Regarding fencing, we'd be happy to meet with the business and provide suggestions and opportunities. Sometimes the best security isn't always the best looking, of course. And I understand a heavy equipment rental facility like this is ripe for theft issues. So I understand their desire to promote the most secure methods they can. Not sure if that helps you.
That's fair.
Okay.
We were having a discussion about what would be safe or not, so I figured I'd ask the expert. But
Understood. Thank you.
those are all my questions, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, does the applicant care to make any further comment?
Pull up the, I guess, proposed site.
I'm
plan.
sorry, hold on. Before I do, I need to ask if there is anybody here that would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this application. Please come forward. Okay, now, sir.
Okay, Rick Vino with McAdams again. So the plants that were proposed, I just want to, I guess, make clarification. They're all shrubs. They're not trees. Trees in that scenario underneath those large trees would not do well. They'd grow into them and create problems for both. So shrubs, evergreen shrubs were all selected. The cypress has needles and not leaves. It does stay evergreen all year. It was selected for that reason as well, too. So I wanted to, I guess, clarify that. Other than that, I guess, you know, we're open to, I want to say we're open to secure options. I want to be clear. But I guess replacement of it, you know, trying to keep in consistency, I guess, with these facilities as previously approved for others as well. And just consistency for the site too. So really that's about it. If there's other options, I'd really like to try to address them tonight and get to a decision tonight for sure. So
Thank you. All right, hearing no further testimony, I'm closing the public hearing and reopening the regular session. Is there any council discussion on this application? Councilmember Carlisle.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just say that I understand completely what Councilmember Lovell is saying about the look of this, but I also understand that you don't want a fence put in there that somebody can just rip right off without even attaching a truck, right? So we do want it to be more secure so that stuff does not go missing. I think that their choice of shrubbery will probably do a very good job covering all of that fence. Hopefully they're going to put it in at a older age, I guess is what you would say, so that it's big enough kind of immediately and then grows all together. So I would be fine with removing condition 6 and allowing them to leave this fence as long as those shrubs, and you know, sometimes when you put shrubbery in like this, it does die. So if we can just make sure that we replace it if it dies, because anywhere you go, you can see that it's like 3 are alive and 1's dead. And so that would be my only comment on that. Other than that, I'm good with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Shields.
I'd mainly echo Councilmember Carlisle's comments, especially in kind of an industrial area like this. It doesn't bother me, the look of it. I drive by there all the time on the way to Home Depot and whatever. So it's honestly a building I've never even noticed before. So it's not sticking out like a sore thumb or anything. So I pulled up on Street View and I'm like, I must have seen that 1,000 times. So, and it's really just a pretty short section that's actually that chain link up by the road. Most of it they kind of take back by the building, it looked like. So I think it really doesn't stick out that much. The industrial shrubbery is fine. I don't think it's that important again because I never really noticed it, but I'd be fine with removing that condition 6.
Thank you. Councilmember Lovell.
Yeah, I'm okay with the removal of condition 6 and feel comfortable with the vegetation that'll be put in there to help with the screening. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
I won't be redundant, but yeah, I pretty much agree with my colleagues. I think removing condition 6, I think it'd be very appropriate.
Okay.
So long as those shrubberies are installed accurately and with purpose. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Rader.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also would echo my other council members, and I want to say Shannon's right. The cypress trees are deciduous. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so when we read this, it looks like there's enough consensus here that we could remove item 6 with an amendment. So I would need somebody to do that for me once we read this. Seeing no further discussion, well, it was supposed to be someone's that's not here. So, Councilmember Shields, would you, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for second reading of Bill number 24-098, an ordinance granting a special use permit for an equipment rental facility in District PI planned industrial on land located 1100 Southeast Hamblen Road for a period of 10 years, all in accordance with Article 6 of the Unified Development Ordinance for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Okay. No, I think we'll amend it. So I have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 24-098 by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez. Discussion. Yes, Councilmember Carlisle. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move to amend this and remove condition number 6.
Okay. That would be the requirement of replacing the fencing, but it would not remove the requirement to put the shrubbery in. Thank you. I have a motion to amend by Councilmember Carlisle and a second by Councilmember Pryor. Discussion on the amendment. Okay, seeing none, we're going to vote on the amendment to remove item 6, requirement 6. Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. So it's unanimous to remove item number 6. So make sure you put in some nice shrubs for us so we look good on this one if this passes. So now we're back to motioning to the motion to approve this this applicant as amended. Thank you. I'm not seeing any further discussion. I have a first and a second. We've amended it. Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It is approved unanimously with the amendment. Hey, we try to take care of our businesses in Lee Summit. So, thank you. That takes us to public comments. Oh, we got people needing a break. Let's do a quick. I usually do it right after public comment, but what? Okay. Then I will keep going because I don't take a break at this time. I'm gonna let Mr. Massoud start us off. Mr. Massoud. I'm saying this in a nice way. You're a force to be reckoned with, just like a couple of other public commenters.
Well, my father taught me to be persistent,
Yep.
and I don't know if this is the right time to talk about this, or if I wait till 9A is on the agenda. What's best me to
No,
talk
this
about?
is the time, because there won't be a time for you later. So,
Lester Massoud, 701 Southeast Basil Court. Been a business owner and a taxpayer and running business here in Lee Summit for 38 years. I want to talk about the geotechnical study for the Take 5 oil exchange at 400 Northeast 291 Highway. The study does talk about the building stability, and I have some issues with that, but my main issue, and I'm going to be clear, is that it does not address the stability of the hill and the pad site. Now, I want to ask, has anybody come out and taken a look at the size and scale, and come out to the property, seen the size and scale of this hill? Because this is between 30 and 40 feet of man-made fill that has not been compacted. I saw it get built. There was no compaction, nothing. So I don't know that that hill is stable. You don't know that that hill is stable because no engineer has said that that hill is stable. Now, they've done the study on whether or not they could put what type of footing to put into the building, and they want to put a spread footing instead of digging down because of the rock. It is more cost effective, but it would be more stable if they went down and put the regular footing. Some of the comments from the engineering report says that if you don't know what the fill is underneath it, you have more likely to be damage and cracking the building flooring, slabs, and pavements. There are things you can do to provide additional remedies to fortify it, but I don't know if that's in there because I was never given access to that study and look, or the blueprints. So they can build that spread footing in there, but there is more risk involved. And I'm telling you that since it is uncompacted underneath it, and you got that spread footing, that building may collapse. And if it collapses, then I think we all have a risk, because we all know now it's a possibility. And so I think it's something that we need to consider, that we all have an exposure and risk in that, because, you know, it could fall down on someone, God forbid, and something happens. There's some things you don't want to see and you can't unsee, and those are the types of things that you can unsee. So I'm asking you to vote no against this and take a look at the engineering, come out and take a look at the size and scale of the wall. Take a look at it. It's not been built, it's not been engineered, and it's not been tested. We're not going to miss any more oil changes. Just come out and take a moment and have an engineering study and see if that pad site, which is man-made, is stable or not. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. I will make sure that we talk to staff about those issues when it comes up. Thank you. All right. They're making me do my own 3 minutes in the back there, Mr. Dunning. No, I'll do it. That's fine. Okay. So next we have Miss Fick, Teresa Fick. Oh.
Is the overhead working?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm gonna put this on here real quick. Street, and then the berm, and then the back of my property line. Okay, and then I had this all organized. Okay. I got a bid for the French drain that I was told that it would be appropriate for me to have. It was $11,471. Now, I don't have a swimming pool. I need to pay $11,000 to alleviate the water from my neighbor's swimming pool? And that's going the short direction out of my yard, going this way. Actually, it'll go this way down to the street, which is 100 feet. If I go the other way, it's 150 feet, and it goes into someone else's yard. If I take it the way that the land is sloped, right here, it goes into the other neighbor's yard. So it's a corner going three ways. But $11,000, I can't afford $11,000. That doesn't include the 3 trees that I have to replace or remove. I have 3 40-year-old red maple trees. They're sugar maples. I could tap them now if I wanted to, but they're all in very serious, decline, and one has to be removed immediately because it's a danger to my home. I brought some pictures to remind you of, this is what my yard used to look like. And here's the, which way am I? There's the fence. I like this one a lot, the fence today. And, my yard used to look in that corner. And this is the brush I deal with. This is what it was a week ago. This is what it looks like today. This has just been 1 week since, 2 weeks. I'm sorry, 2 weeks since I was here the last time. And some proof of the water coming from my neighbor's house. And then we do have codes. We have Chapter 16, Maintenance Code about water breeding insects. And mosquitoes will breed in mud and in a droplet of water. Think how much water's in my yard. It took 2 months after this first dump of water to clear my yard. And then I had Section 201, Section 302.2.1, and Section 302.2.2. B1, discharges from pool must be discharged 5 feet from any property line. Well, it has never been 5 feet from any of my property lines, and there are at least 6 drains. And then there's Article 11, Building Code, Section 722.7, 18.04.4.1.
All right, thank you, Ms. Vick.
Oh, I only have 2 pictures left.
Ms. Vick, you're reading ordinances to us, numbers to us. We don't need the ordinance numbers read to us.
This is 2 pictures.
All right, 2 pictures.
This was the garden on the side of my house, so, I don't know, can you see it? Am I getting it there? Okay,
Pull it towards you just a tad. There we go.
there, that one, and then this, how it went all along the edge, all that's gone. It's been washed away, and the same for the back. Thank you very much.
All right, thank
I
you.
appreciate it, and I would really hope that you reconsider the French drain, because I can't afford that, and I don't even have a swimming pool. I don't even get to swim in the pool.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Vollenweider, you're up.
Teresa Vollenweider, 5201 Northeast Maybrook Road. I'm going to start off again with this picture.
Turn it around the other way for us. Thank you.
Oh, this is strange. You have to think in reverse. This again was a picture I took after the city did the marking. So the city people did this, and I have evidence that shows that the city people were out here and did this. This being the mark that they put for the center line of the road, and then right here is a pink mark that you can't see on here, but I've given you all this picture before yourself. You've had this, where they've marked what the right-of-way line is. So if you look at where the quarter line is, that is here, and this, the right-of-way line, when those intersect, it's going to occur west of that power pole. This was Steve Conrick's document that he did the residential plan review for this property. And he specifically states, there is a slim parcel of land between Maybrook and this property that isn't shown. This is right where the driveway would connect to Maybrook. Was there a replat that gave 5261 access to Maybrook Road? This is Matthew Schlish's plot plan. In Missouri, engineers or surveyors can do plot plans. This is what the city gave to me. They've never given me a better document than this, and you can see where the seal has been cut off and you can't see the date. The seal is also strangely large for the box it's supposed to be in. What they also did was cut off any revisions that were done. So you can't even see, as a public person asking for this document, you can't even see what the revisions were. Now, one thing you cannot do to a sealed document is put a little star like this on a public, a sealed document, and then write a note down here that says, see somebody's survey for where the property ends. That cannot be done on a document like this that is signed and sealed and dated. Now, they also do as-built, signed and sealed. Now look at what that sign and seal looks like. And then you can actually see the box with the revisions. But what's interesting here is this document was rejected by the city, and it has a driveway that looks like this. The one that was accepted by the city had a driveway like this. If you go to the handy-dandy parcel viewer, we'll put it the same way it was. Which one of those does it actually match? It matches the rejected one. When I got these documents, they were handed to me by Dan Harper, who worked for the city. It was when I turned in my appeal. I asked Dan Harper, why was this one rejected and that one accepted when the driveway's wrong? And he said, because the city was afraid they didn't own that land, that the people that lived there at 5261 didn't own that land. So the city has known all along that Teresa Vollenweider owned that slim parcel of land where Steve Conrick said, how is that driveway going to go through there when there's no easement for that driveway there?
All right, I'll let you get all the way to that point, so thank you, Ms. Vollenweider.
I appreciate that.
You bet.
Because it's important to point out the lies that are occurring.
I'm not going to give you, that's a way to really stick it to me after I gave you extra time. I know what.
Speak the truth.
Well, then I'm going to give you 3 minutes on the nose from here on out. And that will be it. Instead of letting you finishing your points like I try to do sometimes, even though I don't understand your points. And I'm pretty familiar with a lot of these things that you're talking about. All right, next, resolutions. Miss Arcuri-Fowler, Fowler-Arcuri, that is, would you please read resolution number 24-05?
Resolution number 24-05, a resolution approving the appointment of a director to the Board of Directors of the I-470 Western Gateway Transportation Development District.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt resolution number 24-05 by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Carlisle. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 8-0. Thank you all. Next, we have proposed ordinances, first reading. Councilmember Lovell, would you please read bill number 24-084?
I move to advance the second reading, bill number 24-084, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances Section 2-2, city holidays to add Juneteenth and Veterans Day as official city holidays.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-084 by Councilmember Lovell, seconded by Councilmember Carlisle. Discussion? Yes, Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. So this was an item that we had discussed in Finance and Budget Committee, and it's under proposed ordinances first reading because we sent it to council with a recommendation of discussion rather than a recommendation of approval, because we thought this was something that the entire council should have a chance to consider and weigh in on. So I think personally that it's a good idea. I think this pairs well with the next item that we're going to talk about, which is the change to the logger system. I think, to me, this is kind of a short-term incentive for employees, immediate incentive for employees, whereas the loggers is a deferred long-term incentive. So, if you have someone at the very beginning of their career, the idea of having a couple of paid holidays off is maybe a bigger attractor than the idea that in 30 years you're going to have a larger retirement. So I think putting these things together can really help with employee retention by offering both those immediate and long-term incentives. So I personally am supportive of this. Juneteenth is a holiday that I get off on in my day job, and it's just a nice benefit to have. And I think the more folks that have that off, the easier it is to plan things like, barbecues and celebrations, and just makes for a good quality of life. So look forward to hearing some discussion, but that was kind of how I looked at it and how I discussed it in the committee hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Carlisle.
Thank you, Mayor. And I was actually going to say, as I watched the May meeting, since I am now on budget and I had to get up to speed and saw this come through, my first thoughts were, how many holidays do we currently have? But luckily, staff is great and gave me that, so I didn't have to research very much. But so then after that, I looked and I kind of did like a little, my own little personal study, which is not scientific by any means, but I just texted everybody I knew in the private sector and said, how many days off do you get paid per year? And so, all my answers came in kind of between 6 and 10. I had an outlier with 4 and another one with 11, so not so lucky, pretty lucky. That being said, I also looked at the federal government and state government of Missouri to see how many holidays they had. And the federal government gets 11 and the state of Missouri gets 12. So with us currently having 12, that puts us pretty much ahead of everybody in the private sector. It also puts us pretty even on par with the rest, the federal and state government and, the other local governments surrounding us, as staff gave us that information. So when I looked into it further and looked at the budget and what's this going to cost us, it will cost us about $100K this year, and that's going to be a recurring expense since, it'll happen every year. And as everybody makes more, that expense is going to be more. So we have to understand that it is going to keep growing as an expense. But, with all of that being said, doing this will definitely put us ahead of all of the local governments surrounding us. It'll put us ahead of the federal and state, even though federal does have a couple others that sometimes get recognized, which is really odd, but we'll just go with 11. So I really don't feel like this is not a small increase, but when you talk about our budget, this is a smaller increase in number. So I really don't feel like we're going to have a problem covering this additional charge every year. I looked back for the last 8 or 10 years, and we have only, with the exception of COVID, had one negative budget, and so I think that's great for us. We are putting money into our reserves every year. As was discussed at budget, we're trying to figure out how to spend some of those reserves. So I think this is a great way to spend those before they go to reserves. So I am in support of this proposal. I think it's going to be great to help us attract and retain the best employees, even though hopefully the labor market's starting to ease up on us. And then lastly, if I could say, anytime that one of these holidays is Juneteenth and one of these is Veterans Day. So in my mind, anytime that we have the opportunity to recognize or celebrate or honor our veterans, we should. So I appreciate us getting this added into there. I come from a military family. I know lots of military people. So in my mind, that that should always be, and it should be for everybody, not just for us in my mind, but I can only really speak to us. So, with all of that being said, I am also in support of this proposal.
Thank you. Councilmember Hodges.
Thank you. I was just going to reiterate, I know I was on finance and budget at this time. Just if I 100% agree with Veterans Day. I think that's a little late being added, honestly. I was struggling with Juneteenth because I want to make sure at what extent, I think also because of just how it came about being a holiday is where I'm struggling with. Because I want to make sure that we're not just, where is the line drawn where we say, okay, enough is enough? Because I mean, we can celebrate so many different things, which is great, but at the same time, it's just going to increase our budget and just increase other things. And at what point are we going to just say, okay, are we going to have a cap at some point? Or are we going to have, I don't know. I was struggling with that one, but I'm not going to do anything to hold this up. I know it's going to pass, and that's fine. But I just want to make sure that there's some accountability there, that we're not just like, yay, another holiday that we can just pay people to not work. And I don't know. I just want to make sure there's some checks and balances there, that we don't get carried away. Just, well, we approved this one, so we got to keep approving. So I don't know. I just want to make sure that we're just keeping that in mind. But again, I'm not going to do anything to hold this up. Again, huge fan. Veterans Day absolutely should be celebrated, and in the context of the other as well. But yes, I will be supporting this as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. So as Councilmember Carlisle stated, I looked at federal versus state. And ultimately, I think that this will go a long way in retaining or attracting and retaining great employees citywide. So I'm in support of this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Lovell.
Thank you, Mayor. When you look at the comparisons, federal, state, and even the other cities, like we're right on par and with other cities, and we even grant to floating holidays, personal days. So those are just kind of like pick and choose what you want. Can we afford it? Yes. But this idea or this notion that somehow, I don't know, it just kind of, it strikes me as a mindset thing. Like, I don't recall any time going into a position that I was passionate about, that I was going to work, and I was like, well, how many holidays do you have? And I think it's just a general, just kind of being against this idea that we're just going to keep adding holiday city to work for based on the number of holidays. And maybe you're not the right fit here, but so I'm against it just from the standpoint. I think we do a good job with our holidays. I think they're right in line with what everybody else gets in the private sector, the public sector. And if someone's determining whether to work here based on the number of holidays, even though we have just as many as anybody else does, maybe we need to look at whether they're the right hire. So I will not be in support of this ordinance. Thanks, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Okay. I'm in support of it. I'll be voting for it because I do think Veterans Day is certainly long overdue, but some people could say Juneteenth is long overdue too. So it's one of those types of things. It's very difficult, but I'm all for the attention, satisfaction, retention side of it. I do understand what I agree with what the council member just said, but I don't know that my kids do. My 27-year-old daughter thinks a lot different than me, even though I thought I raised her just like me. But we just see things differently, and I'd love her to be a entrepreneur and a business owner-owned business type, and she chooses to work for a really massive company that offers all these crazy benefits, and she gets to work from home a couple days a week. So I just want to stay competitive that way. So I think this helps us do that, and I'm glad that we have the money to be able to afford it and stay competitive, because it is competitive with the private side, like you're saying, but also with these other communities. And I feel like we're finally to a point where we're a step ahead in staying manned up or employed up without all the vacancies. I know we still have some, but we're doing a lot better than we were before. Any other comment before we vote? All right, thank you. I'll take a 5-minute recess.
Welcome to the Lee Summit Sign Department. We are going to walk you through our process from start to finish. We make signs as needed here. It's not like we just go out into the field and place a speed limit sign here, no parking here. Our traffic engineers, they go through and they'll do field studies. They'll send us down an engineering work order for us to go out, place new signs or remove signs as needed. Coming from the material, our blanks come in and they're just aluminum blanks. We can put our white, our red, our fluorescent yellow, green, whatever. And basically what it looks like is just that there. Throw it up into the roller. And once we got it covered, take it to our work table here, and Tim will cut the corners, cut all the access off to where it's lined up right. As far as the plotter and the software that we use, there's a street name sign there, and he's gonna go ahead and print that out on the plotter so you can see the plotter and how it operates and runs. There's standards for the height, even just on letters on the sign blank. Basically what we have on the computer there is it's pretty much set up to those. And it goes through, it's got a very small but sharp needle that goes through and cuts everything out, letter by letter. Once that's done cutting, our next stage would be bringing it over here. Currently picking out the sign letters right now. We call it weeding or picking or however you want to call it. Next, putting it on the transfer tape. Then after it's taped, we bring it over to the roller. That's where we apply it to the actual sign blank. And we'll roll it through one time just to get the air bubbles out. And the last stage is basically just taking the transfer tape off the front of it. And there's a finished product of the street name sign. We'll take you out to the field and show you our process that we go through. We're going to go out and follow our sign guys and get something installed for you. This is where we check our underground utilities. Tim, you got AT&T?
AT&T's back here.
Evergy, Google, so we should be good to go. We normally put all of our stuff together out in the field. Then once the base is installed, we'll go ahead and put the post in there. We've come up to perfect. And that's how we do it. Simple. Quick.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either a bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words: mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982's en route.
Officers en route, 914 Armstrong.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
Like, hey, you know, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, you know, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network, who's close to you. If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as the co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know you care and the officers care.
Please, how can we help you?
My husband
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here, we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. You know, say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And you know, and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you, well then we found a support person and they responded immediately and we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
When the person called on the phone, she said that there was a dinosaur walking down her road. Of course, we had to go out and check that out. We get out there, and it was a big African tortoise, probably 60 pounds, walking down the road. When they walk, they really stand up tall, so I could see why she thought it was a dinosaur. I'm Rodney Wagner. I'm the manager of Lee Summit Animal Control. So as you can see, we get all sorts of animals here. You got some guinea pigs off to the side. All the windows up here are animals that are adoptable right now. Every one of these dogs is ready to go and ready for adoption. And the same thing with our cats over here. A lot of cool cats in here now, so this is our 3-acre lot we have out back. This is where we do all the walking of dogs, exercise. We also have a side yard off to the side over there, so we can let them run loose. They can run together, and then we have what's called play groups. Kind of like having a bunch of kids. Here's our vet room. We have a vet that comes out twice a week. This is our Sally Port where we bring the animals into. This is one of our animal control trucks, and we can hold up to 6 animals. We have a lift on the other side to put big animals in. We actually have temperature gauges in here and in the truck to tell us how hot it is. Once it gets to a certain temperature, we bring all the animals back here immediately. So this actually has traps in it, but we do a lot of wildlife trapping. I mean, a lot. So bats, potbelly pigs, horses, cows, emus, a lot of reptiles. We had a citizen one time that had over 200 reptiles in his basement. Caimans and alligators in here that are 4 or 5 feet long. You can't keep those. And people do, and they're surprised when they can't keep them. I'm like, really? You're surprised you can't have an alligator in your house? Our main goal here is public safety and also the safety of the animals. And we have very dedicated people back there, and they definitely stay here for the love of the animals, which also includes getting them adopted out. We'll have about 4,000 impounded animals a year. Probably about close to 2,000 are dogs and cats. The cats and dogs, when they get impounded here, they go on a 5-day hold. And then after the 5 days, if the owner doesn't show up, then we can put them up for adoption. To adopt an animal here is actually really simple. You just come in, look for whatever animal you're looking for, find the right pick. You go to the adoption room up there and see if you get along with them. You spend as much time as you want to in there. From that point on, it's just a matter of making sure they're spay or neutered and all their vaccinations up to par and they're good to go. We have a very high adoption rate because we try everything in our power to get animals adopted out. We have Heart of America Humane Society that we do a lot of adoptions through. And then we also have other groups. We have some people that literally will just look all over the country for somewhere for a dog to go. And we sent dogs up into South Dakota, North Dakota, Washington State. So it's actually, it's a huge united effort to get all these animals home.
Tarzan's got lots of energy. Hazel's got a weird meow. Belle, she wants nothing to do with the other cats. She'll kind of get her grumpy face going.
And the good thing about the people here is that they get all their friends to get animals too. All of us have probably the limit of all the animals that we can have at home. You know, they are huge animal lovers. If it was up to the people here, we'd have 15 cats running around in here. We had a citizen one time out there and he was bathing his 2 9-foot-long boa constrictors in the front yard. Apparently I was garnering some attention, and so we went out there and had to have a talk with him about that. Why do I do this job? Oh, dude, I love this job. I grew up on a farm, and taking care of that many animals, you can't help but like animals. This is just like fancy farming. You know, you're just
Bringing this meeting back to order. We're actually in the middle of an ordinance that we're putting forward. We discussed it a bit about holidays. Man, my screen is the wrong screen here. Okay, good. Here it is. This is bill number 24-084. We have a motion and a second. We had a discussion, and we took a really quick recess there, and maybe not real quick. And then we're back into the discussion. So, Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. I need to disclose that I may have a potential conflict due to my husband's employment with the city, but I've been advised by the Missouri Ethics Commission that it's not a conflict that would prevent me from voting in this vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? I think we discussed it out for the most part. So I'm going to call for the vote. Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. And it passes 6-2. All right, that's going to take us to another one that has to do with the budget. This one, Councilmember Carlisle, would you please read bill number 24-085?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move bill number 24-085, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances Section 2-339, determination of final average salary, to change the time period used for determining a member employee's final average salary from a 60 consecutive month period to a 36 consecutive month period, with the Missouri Local Government Employees Retention System be moved to second reading.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-085 by Councilmember Carlisle, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Yes, Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. So this was another one that we discussed in Finance and Budget Committee. We saw some good data about what our comparator jurisdictions are doing, and to be more in line with them, looking at going to this 36-month average. I believe Mr. Dunning has spoken before about kind of the timing of all this, the noticing. So this will be first read tonight, but there's a notice period that has to finish running before we can final adopt if it's passed this evening. So I don't know if you want to speak at all to that, Mr. Dunning, if that's okay, Mayor?
Yeah, I told him we were going to ask him to explain that, so he's ready.
Yep. Thank you very much, Mark Dunning, City Manager. The loggers provision is a very detailed process to go through, and so as Councilmember Shields mentioned, Finance and Budget Committee directed staff to go ahead and post the required notice, which occurred on May 7th, to start that 45-day clock. That doesn't mean anything that anything was going to be approved. It just starts the process. And so what that means is the notice needs to remain publicly placed, and it will through the 20th of this month. So the second reading of this would not be appropriate to hold second reading of this until that 45-day notice period has concluded. So that means it would need to be sometime either the last week of June or a following meeting, so in order to meet all the criteria.
Okay. Since you went ahead and explained that, do you mind? Council, if we want this to take effect with the budget, for everything to coincide, then I would like to ask if you would consider a quick noon, 10-minute official meeting, actually a council meeting, just to present.
Second reading.
If this passed, we would need to do the second reading after that time frame. And so we'd need to do that special meeting probably on a Thursday or a Friday, whatever would work for the council at, again, noon, and be a 10-minute meeting. And when would that need to be, Mr. Dunning? About what date?
Any date after June 21st, so that really leaves us that last week
Okay,
of
so
June.
we've got time to coordinate it? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. It would be a Zoom, but at the same time, if somebody's out of town, I try to let them enjoy their vacation, but let's see how this goes here. Any discussion on this? Councilmember Shields, would you like to make any further comment?
It seemed like I spoke about earlier, another good way to look at employee retention. So I think this will be a good strategy for us. I know we've had trouble attracting and retaining the number of qualified employees that we need.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Yes, yeah, please, Councilmember Carlisle.
I would also say that just as the last one, I looked into this one, and from back when I was on council before, we used to be able to say that we had the best benefits package around. So now we cannot say that, almost we can, but with moving this to a 3-year, that puts us not better than our comparator cities, but really right in line with them. I think there's only a couple of cities that surround us that do not have this, that have our same level. So with knowing that information and seeing our budget, say what I was just going to say, but we do have the money for it, as long as the sales tax for some things keep going, which I don't see is going to stop, then we should be good for a while. So I'm in support of this as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I do know that it's really interesting you kind of framed it the way you did, because I'm on the Little Blue Valley Sewer District Board as a representative for this council. And so they have a lot of employees, and I've spent the last 6 years watching them make decisions very similar to what we made a few years ago. And the reason that they had to start making those decisions is because they could not keep their employees, and they were losing. And those employees are actually, some of them are very technical, and so they were really struggling to, and these are the types of decisions they've had to make, plus pay compensation, and they've had to do compensation studies. I mean, just so many things that we've gone through, but they just got too far behind. And they're really trying to make adjustments fast right now. So anyway, we gotta continue to try to stay as competitive as we can. So, Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I will be recusing from this one, but I was wondering, even though I am recusing from the actual vote, can I still give my opinion?
The requirement of that provision in the charter is that you cannot participate or vote. So you should not. I would recommend that you not.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further comment before I call for the vote? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. votes are in. Please record the vote, and it passes 7-0 with one recusal and one absent. All right, that takes us to bill number, Councilmember Hodges, would you please read bill number 24-099?
I advance to second reading Bill number 24-099, an ordinance vacating a portion of a certain easement located at 3022 Northwest Thoreau Place in the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-099 by Councilmember Hodges, seconded by Councilmember Shields. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 8-0. Thank you. Councilmember Hodges, would you also read bill number 24-100?
I advance to second reading Bill number 24-100, an ordinance accepting final plat entitled The Falls at Winterset Valley, second plat, lots 1520 to 1532, and tracts C through E as a subdivision to the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-100 by Councilmember Hodges, seconded by Councilmember Shields. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. No, it's not public comment time, I'm sorry. Please record the vote. It's 8-0. And it passes. Moves us to second reading, proposed ordinances. Councilmember Shields, would you please read bill number 24-086?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for approval or adoption of bill number 24-086, an ordinance approving rezoning from District RP2, Plan 2 Family Residential District to District CP2, Plan Community Commercial District, and a preliminary development plan for Take 5 oil change on approximately 1.73 acres of land located at 400 Northeast M291 Highway, all in accordance with provisions of Chapter 33 Unified Development Ordinance of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt bill number 24-086 by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Carlisle. This is the one we had quite a discussion on last month, and then we had a public commenter today kind of get into the weeds on the backfilling and things of that nature. Can we have someone come and speak to what was stated, but also the emails that were also sent? There was an email that went around as well.
Good evening, Amy Nassif, Deputy Director of Development. In response to the email and the discussion this evening, there was a geotech report provided to the city and provided prematurely. It's not required as part of the process until final development plan and until we get the structural drawings with that FDP and with the building permit submittal. So is there information still outstanding? You know, absolutely, but those are things that we get per our code and per our requirement processes, such as the finishing with the soil reports and documenting the fill and things of that nature at that other step in the process. We're just not there right now.
So if there's there is backfill and it's not stable or compact enough for building onto, what are the type of things that would be become necessary to build on that?
Absolutely. So they may have, as the report suggests, the report is giving like scenarios because there just wasn't enough information yet. So it was, you might have more money, more cost. You might have to bring in more fill. You might have to compact. You might have to obviously document the fill, determine the type of fill, all those kinds of things.
Did it mention
adjust
piers?
the footings and the piers and things. Those are all just possibilities that are just unknown at this time until they're able to do that final geotech and those soil reports at the FDP and structural permitting phase.
And then on, let's just say that there are issues and they do have to do piers, and sometimes they have to go, because you're more technical, I need you to explain this if my question is relevant. Sometimes they have to go even deeper to get into rock to be able to embed the pier. Is that
Exactly.
a layman's term way of saying it?
Sure. Depending on the type of fill, because it could be clean fill or just dirt, soil, or it could be rock, rubble, things of that nature, or construction debris fill. So that testing is done. Then that determines also how to compact the soil, what else is needed with the soil so that it can stabilize and hold the weight of any structures, what the piering and the filling will have to be. But all that will have to be analyzed and reviewed and approved prior to any permits being released by the city as well, and that's per our codes and our UDO requirements.
So they do have to comply to all of those and be as you said, to get our approval, they have to be in compliance with
Correct.
those codes. Okay, a couple more questions. Councilmember Rader?
Thank you, Mayor. And then, Amy, you gave me such a wonderful explanation prior to our meeting tonight about the fact, I think this is important for people to know. When an application comes before the planning first and then council, that's just the very preliminary, and please join in here with how the process starts and how it moves along. So could you go back and explain, because you did it so well, what you said to me earlier? It was a really good explanation. I want people to hear it. I want anybody that's out there in TV land to hear it.
Sure, absolutely. So there's several steps to the process. This is just a single glance and look at one. So the very first step is getting zoning in place and with preliminary plans. And while preliminary plans might look very detailed at the point right now, the engineering and the structural and the specifics are actually not laid out yet. So we have the preliminary plan process, which focuses on what use can I do here and what would the site generally look like. And then it moves to, do we need to plat the property? Then there's a final development plan stage where you get the final details and the plans review with the building permits, with the IBC codes where you get the mechanical, structural, electrical, all those come into play as well. Grading, land disturbance. So there's a whole series and sequence of events that occur. This zoning step and the PDP step is more of this conceptual phase. Very, very important phase though, because if we don't get past this part, all those other pieces just don't come into play and they don't come to fruition.
So there's a guarantee to the public out there that once they go through this is just the very first part of it, they still have to go through all those engineering reports. Everything has to be perfect. We don't want the liabilities as a city either.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll just add that all that's, you can actually watch it in real time online as well. I mean,
yes,
there's actually a portal that you can go check and see what's going on, and that's where our public commenter probably went to find the information that he did. He does know what he's doing. He went on the portal and read the documents. And so they are out there every time you have interactions. So, all right, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. And it passes 7-1. All right. We are on committee reports. Okay. Yes, Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a Finance and Budget Committee meeting yesterday. We had a couple of public commenters who are from organizations that are going to be seeking PSAs from the city. So we had someone from the forthcoming DMO, Destination Marketing Organization, and also from Downtown Lee Summit. And so the DMO said they're still a few weeks out from coming to us with a more formal proposal, but since we were discussing the Business and Industry Fund, they just wanted to be part of that discussion. And then Downtown Main Street actually made a formal presentation, and after discussion, the committee is going to recommend to council an increase to downtown's budget. It's currently been at $60,000 for, I believe, over 13 years, and so it's, assuming that council concurs, would be increasing to $120,000 in the first year, and then stair-stepping up to $180,000, which would get them to close to a third of their budget, which is what their best practices recommend. And they had some good data about the amount of increase in sales tax revenue that downtown has seen over the last decade, and so the committee felt comfortable recommending that, but just wanted to give folks a heads up that that's coming, and then we should hopefully be seeing something from the DMO pretty soon as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Lovell.
Thank you, Mayor. We will have our first CEDC meeting with the new group June 12th at 5 p.m. And then moving forward, we're going to go to 4 to 5 p.m. But appreciate Mr. Johnson and Mr. Elam again sitting down with me and getting me set up for success. So we got a lot of cool stuff that I think we'll be addressing in that first meeting, and look forward to sharing those reports when we get them. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. if we have another council meeting, is there a,
Like ever?
no, for the loggers, if I have to do a special one, I will have to do a special one. What day is a good, day, the most, should I ask which one's the worst day or the best day? Thursdays okay? Fridays? Thursday or Friday? What? Thursday or Friday? We're gonna shoot for a Thursday or Friday. We'll go from there, Mr. Dunning. If you could take a poll and make sure we should have plenty of time to plan for that. Okay. All right. Any more committee reports? Okay. Council comments. Any council comments tonight? Okay. Staff roundtable.
A couple quick items. So next week we'll, bring the public hearing for the city's budget for fiscal year 25 budget. So that'll be on the agenda. And then a quick one, Brian Head here is, as of today, he's been with the city for 10 years. So he served us for 10 years, but he's been in public service in the law practice for 28 plus years. So congratulations to Brian, and we thank him for his 10 years.
And he keeps us on our toes. He interrupts meetings and says, "Call a recess." And all right, I'll call a recess. So, okay. So today we've got 2 more meetings this month, and then we might have a special meeting, and then we'll be off into a new fiscal year. So, very good. Thank you all. I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 8:12.